Welcome to episode 178 of the Half Point Per Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Riggs. Another solo pod today while Dalton is away. As a result, this will be another kind of short and sweet podcast, 20 to 30 minutes. We shall see. Obviously, week one has come and gone, and there is a lot to talk about. I've got 8 storylines that I think are interesting, that I think are fun, and some other storylines kind of buried within those that I'll talk about. We'll obviously talk more about everything that's happened the first 2 weeks when Dalton and I get back together again next week for our first full podcast in a couple of weeks. And, it's only fitting that where I start is in Seattle with one of Dalton's guys, Zach Charbonnet, while he's not here. My first takeaway from week one is it's too early to call this backfield in Seattle either way. And maybe we don't ever get it called either way. I know just you look at the snap share, 59% of the snaps for Zach Charbonnet, 41% for Kenneth Walker. And you think, okay, like this is the Zach Charbonnet show. And in the first half, it certainly was. I think at one point it was like 7-2 carries, but what it ended up, and obviously this game never got out of hand, so it wasn't Kenneth Walker racking up garbage time. It was 12 for 47 for Zach Charbonnet and 10 for 20 for Kenneth Walker. Walker did have 3 targets and 3 catches to Charbonnet 0, so he did actually out-touch Zach Charbonnet, and I think probably they were pretty similarly bad from a fantasy perspective. So I guess what I'd say for now is, yes, this is definitely noteworthy. We've never seen Charbonnet treated like the starter in this way. And both of these guys will have better games. But for now, I mean, number one, it's just 1 week. And number two, like, I didn't see enough for me to say, like I can with Travis Etienne, more on that later, that like this is Zach Charbonnet's backfield until further notice. I think we need to see more. Pretty much an even split production wise right now, and that honestly might be more frustrating than before when we all kind of hoped Charbonnet would play a little bit more. It's just 12. At least you knew not to start the guy. Now it's like you drafted this guy late. Should I start him? Should I not? I think for now you have to just kind of sit and wait and see what happens next week. Next up, another situation that I just want to kind of pump the brakes on the Patriots as a whole and kind of everything going on and surrounding that team after week one. I think the thing people probably most care about for fantasy is TreVeyon Henderson. I mean, this is a guy that I think was probably a top 20 running back in all fantasy drafts or most fantasy drafts. And it wasn't pretty. I mean, the day ended up okay if you in PPR or even half PPR, it was reasonable, but he only played 34% of the snaps. So I think we probably have to see an improvement in that regard before we can really bump him up to true every week starter status, which I think that'll happen. Like, to be clear, to take the other side of that position a little bit, I'm not saying I'm out permanently. He's just not a guy that I'm rushing to get in my starting lineup right now, and I'm probably looking elsewhere. It was 11-10 in total opportunities in his favor against Ramondre Stevenson, and he's never going to be a guy. Well, I say that he could be, but he may be a guy that does not have to play the majority of the snaps. Like, I know guys like Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, even Alvin Kamara, as his career has gone on, have played a lot. But TreVeyon Henderson is explosive enough to where, yes, he can deliver top 20 running back value in a good spot if he's playing 50 to 60% of the snaps. Obviously, 34% is a long way off of that, but it's week one. He's a rookie. It's Mike Vrabel. Like, he may have to kind of earn it a little bit. We'll see. And then the other thing, just not working in his favor or really anyone's favor in this offense, is that Drake May just had a very, very bad game. Bad decisions. The offense just did not look good. They weren't moving the ball. consistently. And I mean, Stephon Diggs didn't do much of anything. Demary Douglas gets the touchdown. Kayshon Boutte is a guy that people exit this game being pretty excited about. I know your waivers have come and gone by the time you hear this, but Matt Harmon is going to be doing some very helpful in-season charting for reception perception that I think will help a ton for people looking to kind of make these in-season calls on wide receivers. And pretty much what he saw after week one, this seems like a sacrificial X receiver situation with the amount of times he lined up on the outside, on the line of scrimmage, and the type of separation he was or was not able to get. Like, could this be a Marquez Valdez-Scantling situation? Yeah, like he's going to have probably some big games because Drake May will take some deep shots and hit him on some deep shots. I'm just not sure that the role and the talent are going to command consistent volume. So I would pump the brakes on Kayshon Boutte going forward a little bit. So pick number 3, Travis Etienne all of a sudden goes from the guy nobody wants to draft at RB 30, falls all the way down to there, give or take, to he's got to be ranked inside like the top 16 running backs by basically everybody this week because he looked awesome. I mean, yes, the total yardage was aided by a big run, but this was not a big run where the siege just parted and he ran through a hole. Like, he made a linebacker miss with 2 jump cuts and then looked like 2023 Travis Etienne going 71 yards and reached miles per hour that he had not reached since 2023. Now, devil's advocate on that, his longest rush last year was something like 26 yards, and his longest reception, I believe, his longest reception was 26, and his longest rush was 22. So don't have the opportunity to get that top speed on those. But also, he had the ankle injury he was dealing with pretty early on, hurt the hamstring as well. So just had a very unhealthy season. And I'm burying the lead with all of this. Of course, he has the great game, over 150 total yards, like 62% of the snaps, 57% rush share. But Tank Bigsby gets traded to the Eagles. He hardly played, had 5 carries for 12 yards, I believe. Bichelle Tootin goes 3 carries and 0 targets. I'm sure that will tick up. He'll probably get more involved. And this trade of Tank Bigsby does kind of open the door for that to happen, I think, too. But I don't think you can say anything other than this is Travis Etienne's backfield right now. In a month, maybe the rookie has something to say about that. Maybe the other rookie, LaQuint Allen, in this backfield also continues to be a factor because that's at least the nice thing about getting Tank Bigsby out of there. It's a disaster for my guy Gall of Tank Bigsby, but we're at least down from 4 to 3 guys who we care about. It makes both the backup running backs a little bit more palatable to stash as opposed to Tank Bigsby also being there and then working in 4 guys in the backfield. But I mean, for Etienne, I want to say he had the most rush yards above expected last week. And I mean, outside of Derrick Henry, this guy was probably the second best running back in the league. And then you look at, last year, he was just very unhealthy. Their offensive line was dead last in run block win rate. Ian Rappaport is tweeting that Etienne, looking like his old self, made this trade palpable for the Jags. And I mean, you guys know how these insiders work. Like, I don't think he's saying that without people from the Jags telling him that. So again, 16 carries. He had 1 game with 15 plus carries last year. And maybe most importantly with all of this is just eye test. He looked like the guy I remember from 2023. Just the explosion, the cutting, all of that stuff. Keep in mind, the Panthers' run defense last year was abysmal. It may be abysmal again this year. Travis Etienne does get the Bengals this week, so I'm definitely firing him up. It's not going to be this good every week, obviously, but it wouldn't be crazy if the guy that has done 1,400 scrimmage yards and over 1,000 multiple times just had one really unhealthy season where everything went to crap, and he is all of a sudden a very good running back again this year. Like, I think that is totally in play, and everyone's looking for the Bucky Irving role in the Liam Cohen offense. Like, maybe it'll just be Travis Etienne instead of the kid that just drafted. We'll see. Next up, Chris Olave and Jennings in New Orleans. Stock up for both of those guys. For Jennings, 96% route participation, basically being treated as if he's a wide receiver. I believe he was a wide receiver in college, so that, of course, does make a lot of sense. And look, like the Chris Olave thing, this is just me kind of confirming my priors a little bit here, but I like what I saw out of the Saints offense for Chris Olave. Yes, you want the 7 for 54 to be better, but here's the thing. The Saints played the fastest tempo in the NFL in week 1. Don't know if that's going to continue all season, but it's at least a data point right now to keep an eye on. Let's see where we're at in a month, 6 weeks, but it's a good start. Spencer Rattler ended up with 46 pass attempts. Obviously, more plays equals more pass attempts. Chris Olave had a 32% target share, which I think it's fair to say that is probably going to continue. It's just going to be how big is that target share on a week-to-week basis. Sure, the 7.7 ADOT, you wish it was a little bit more, but it could also bring some stability to a guy who has had a very boom or bust type of profile so far in his NFL career, because he's been used almost purely as a downfield weapon. 14.2, 13.3, and 10.3. Those are his ADOTs his first 3 years, with 10.3 being last year in the NFL. In week 1, he saw 2 targets from motion. All of last season, which I understand he missed a lot of time, but a lot more than one game is what he played. He only saw 4 targets in motion all of last year. Of course, one of those targets in week 1 almost got him killed, but so it goes with Chris Olave. 41.4% of the snaps from the slot. Like, if we get Chris Olave moving around more in the formation, getting more of these quarterback-friendly targets, that's going to insulate him for in this offense, like to some of the up and down nature of it just not being probably a very good offense. So you do really like to see that. And like, here's the thing with Olave. The Olave manager might look at the line and see 7 for 54 and more injury alerts than touchdowns. 1-0. By the way, it was Juwan Johnson that I was trying to look up, not Jennings. I was thinking of the 49ers. Juwan Johnson is the tight end that you want to elevate in New Orleans. Sorry about that. But back to Chris Olave. You see 754, no touchdowns. You see the injury alert. You see the Saints put up whatever they did, 13 points, something like that. And you think, man, look, if that Olave manager is panicking or just, they're like, okay, I drafted the guy. I won. He's not, like, he didn't explode week 1. I just don't want to deal with this all season. Like, I'm going and trading for him. Like, 13 targets. Like I said, more stability in usage if this sort of thing does continue. And he's a good deep weapon. He will have some big plays this year too. So there will still be explosive weeks. We're not talking about like a Jarvis Landry back in the day where all Olave can do is 5 for 60. Like that's not the case with Chris Olave. He was 6th in expected fantasy points among wide receivers in week 1. So like, kind of the Chris Olave story, but he's dirt cheap still right now. Last year, I know people made this kind of a thing. Shaheed out-targeted him 34-27 in games they played together. That was 13-9 in week 1 in favor of Chris Olave. By the way, Juwan Johnson, 11 targets. So just another reason to get him in your starting lineups as well. So, like, just a reminder, entering this season, Jamar Chase, yards per route run, was 2.25. CeeDee Lamb, 2.28. Chris Olave, 2.21. This is a good player who I still think you can buy low after week 1, and I'm all about it. A guy that you certainly cannot buy low is Hollywood Brown. And obviously the biggest takeaway from this is he's going to have a huge role until the Chiefs get healthier. Xavier Worthy sounds like they're not thinking about IR, not thinking about surgery. So theoretically, he should be back before Rashee Rice. But I think we're going to get Hollywood Brown as the top receiving option along with Travis Kelce. And keep in mind, Derwin James, the Chargers have always been kind of uniquely set up to give Kelce trouble with Derwin James. He's probably going to get more targets going forward than he did week 1. But I think Hollywood Brown is still the top target, most likely, in this offense. And I get it. Like, week 1, number 1, the team was sleepwalking. It looked terrible for the first half of that game. Hollywood's not going to have 16 targets. They did have to just kind of scrap the game plan and figure things out because Worthy gets knocked out on the third play of the game. Lasted 3 more plays than Jalen Carter did this week, but it's still 10 for 99, and he's going to be hugely involved. And yes, I've seen the jokes. I get it. 10 catches, couldn't even break 100 yards, blah, blah, blah. In the first half, Hollywood did not play well and had a pretty killer drop that people don't remember because it was second down, not third down. But it was 2nd and 10. Chiefs don't get 3rd and 10. They have to punt. It killed the drive where if he catches it, they're in Charger territory and probably at least get a field goal there in the first half. Also made a mistake, kind of lost his footing out of a break that almost led to that Mahomes near pick that you might remember on the back shoulder throw. Mahomes, in my mind, made the right read there, and Hollywood just kind of stumbled, and that's why it looked the way it did there. But Hollywood played a lot better in the second half. You have to keep in mind, this guy's played like 4 real football games since the end of the 2023 season, where, by the way, he got hurt and missed the remainder of that season with about a month, 2 months left in that season. So, and he also missed a lot of time in training camp with an injury too. So I think he was probably having to knock off some real rust at the beginning of this game. And he, to me, was a lot better in the second half, made a nice play on the big play at the end of the game where Mahomes made just an inhuman throw to get him the ball 50 yards down the field. 52% of his routes were from the slot. Hollywood's never had a year where he played more than 4 games per JJ Zacharyson to have above a 40% snap share in the slot. I don't know if that'll continue all season, but without Rashee Rice, that may very well continue. And also, I'd have to think that he's going to get hit on some more of these intermediate targets, maybe not necessarily 30, 40-yard deep bombs, but like he was wide open on a deep over, I think twice. One time Mahomes went elsewhere. Another time it got tipped at the line of scrimmage by the Chargers guy who kept tipping passes in the second half of that game. So like, I'm just not that worried about the Chiefs offense. It might be a slog. People just seem to be convinced that they're going to throw it at the line of scrimmage forever. That's not even what they're trying to do in this week. And I do think if they're able to game plan knowing that they don't have Worthy, obviously they don't have Rice, it'll continue to look a little bit better, hopefully, as the offensive line continues to improve a little bit. So all that to say, Hollywood Brown, I don't know how you're not starting him in a 12-team league if you've got him going forward until the other guys get back. Keon Coleman, another guy from that sophomore draft class, talking about Worthy a bit. Now Keon Coleman, much better week 1 for him than his 2024 counterpart. 8 receptions for 112 yards and 1 touchdown. And I know the general consensus is going to be, people wanting to get carried away with him in the ranks, or at least I think that might be what happens. I'm just here to say I'm not sure if we should do that just yet, but this game, he did show enough to me that he should be considered in your flex conversation going forward. He did, yes, have the one catch on a pretty lucky tipped ball, but obviously, and that was his touchdown, by the way, but he obviously still had to make that play. And this was a game where Josh Allen threw the ball 46 times and also for almost 400 yards because they were chasing the Ravens from the second quarter on. And again, like Keon Coleman, good game. To me, he looked better than last year, especially on some of the downfield stuff, kind of creating some separation in that way. But again, not that you expect 8 for 112, but there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical of him as a clear cut every week starter, in my mind. Starting with that volume from Josh Allen 46 attempts. Last year, his season high was 40, which he did one time. And that was the most passes he's thrown in a game since 2023 against the Eagles when he threw 51, and that was an overtime game. Obviously, we've talked about this. The Bills have really shifted to more of a run-focused team since their offensive coordinator change mid-season in 2023. You look back through Josh Allen's game logs, which, by the way, that was the 8th most pass attempts of his career. Like all of the games with 40, 50, I think he had one with 60 plus throws are 2020 through 2022. Not to say this couldn't happen again, but I don't think this will be the norm. Something I did like is the Bills got him some more free releases last week than I remember last season. I mean, his zone coverage rate, so in Harmon's reception perception, in this one game was not up to par with his 2024, which is like, he's pretty good at that. That's his strength. So I would expect that is just a small one game sample that will probably bounce back. You do like that the man coverage, 65% success rate, pretty solid, and it's a pretty big improvement for him. But it's not like we're looking at this performance and saying, wow, like this guy is all of a sudden getting really, really good separation. Like it's not quite that, but if the zone stuff gets back to where it was last year, the man coverage stuff, he keeps showing a decent improvement there. He can be a lot better than where his pre-draft rank was. I'm just not going to rank him as like the wide receiver 25 yet. I need to see more, but definitely worthy of flex consideration this week. Last thing, this is the ultimate confirming my priors with Jackson Smith and Jigba. He has graduated from that slot only role, guys. I mean, yes, a 60% target share, not sustainable. That's not going to happen. 91% air yard share, also not sustainable. Not going to happen. But those things are pretty much not possible if a guy is in a slot only role, like I think people projected on JSN as a player, even though that was not really the case last year. And I think it's going to be even less so this year. I mean, I said last year he was a lot better against man coverage and even against press than he was against zone. This is a guy who can win on the outside. He only played from the slot about 29% of the time. He still got some of those easy layups. 3 of his targets were on screens. Like, yes, he's not going to have this target share and this air yard share, but also they only threw the ball 23 times, only threw it for 150 yards, and I believe the final score of that game was 13-10. So this offense will just have better days ahead of it. I mean, just some of the raw numbers from this game. 19.4 PPR points, 92% route participation, 59% of the targets, 90% of the team's air yards, just hilarious. Was in the slot 29% of the time, 5.63 yards per route run. Again, one game sample, not going to be this good every game. But if you didn't think that JSN could do more than just play the slot, I think this week 1 game is a big statement that he can, in fact, do a lot more than that. And on that note, that is going to do it for episode 178 of the Half Point Per Podcast. Give us a follow, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Half Point Per Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube Half Point Per Podcast. I think we've got about 10 new subs in the last week, which is amazing. Truly thankful for new people who are finding the show on YouTube. And that's really the biggest thing you can do for us. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Life's been a little bit busy for me in the last week or so. Haven't been able to get as much YouTube stuff up as I want, but hopefully that'll be more consistent throughout the season. So thank you guys all again so much for listening. The show's available anywhere you get podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back with a full podcast next week.